at the Sawe Kanda here in Accra and Tamale. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 FM. If you can hear us in it's on W93.5. Around the world, we're streaming live on 3news.com. Download the TuneIn app from the Google Play or Apple iOS store and listen to us on the go. Coming up this afternoon, Chairperson of the Electoral Commission expected before Parliament today over controversial constitutional instrument seeking to make the Ghana card the only identity document to register onto the electoral roll following a directive by the Speaker yesterday. We're live to Parliament shortly. Also, security operatives pick up 10 suspects in connection with violent clashes in Tiriponi district, resulting in at least 2 deaths and damage to property. And later, as Nigerians head to the polls on Saturday, security analyst Professor Kusieni says the Naira shortage there could pose a major security crisis for authorities. We're live in Lagos as well pretty shortly if you stay with us for the next 30 minutes. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin. It's streaming live on Facebook, the handle 3FM927, on Twitter as well, handle 3FM927, as well as on YouTube. I am Eric Mawina Egbeta. Let's get into the details, starting from here in Ghana, where the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jean Mentor, is this afternoon expected in Parliament following a directive by the Speaker to have her appear before the House over the controversial constitutional instrument, the CI, making the Ghana card the sole document for getting onto the country's electoral roll. It follows heated exchanges yesterday in the legislature when the CI was raised, prompting the media to be escorted out of the chamber. Speaking on the floor, Minority Leader Dr. Kesiel Atoforsen stressed the importance of the EC chair on the subject before any decision could be taken.
And we want the Electoral Commissioner to be here, to be the one to give us the needed assurances before we can proceed on this part. But her absence will make it very difficult for us, the Speaker, to accept the deputy to be the one to give that kind of assurances. And so, Mr. Speaker, we raise that concern. After raising the concerns, the first Deputy Speaker also said that the National Identification Authority should proceed and deliver a presentation without listening to our concerns or making input into our concerns. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, that is what brought the concerns that you have been briefed appropriately. So I wish to say that, Mr. Speaker, let us wait for the chairperson of the Electoral Commission to be here. And if the chairperson of the Electoral Commission is here, the needed assurances that we on this side needed, Mr. Speaker, will be able to get it. Mr. Speaker, the issues we are raising borders on Article 42 of the Constitution, the right of ordinary Ghanaian of voting age to be able to register and vote appropriately. So it's a constitutional matter, and we think that the EC must be here to listen to us and to give us the necessary assurances. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
That's the Minority Leader, Dr. Kesiel Atoforsen. Well, the position was not supported by the majority. That, however, did not stop the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, from directing that Jean Mensa make an appearance in the legislature.
I'm compelled to adjourn the House, but leadership will have to meet and immediately have a word with the NIA. And they are prepared to come back as early as possible to give the brief. We will allow the Deputy Minister for Finance, our own, to be here to represent the Minister. We will insist that the EC be represented at the highest level. And together, we'll find solutions to this. It is very, very important for the peace, the security, and the development of this nation. So please, don't let us fiddle with this matter. As so direct, the House is accordingly adjourned.
So that was the ruling of the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, yesterday. Let's take it to Parliament, where my colleague Evelyn Tingma is there for us. Evelyn, indication that the EC chair would be present today. Do we know if it's before the entire House or just a select committee?
Mawina, apparently that particular committee of the whole meeting will not be coming on today. But obviously, it was yesterday that the committee of the whole meeting was held. So we had the Electoral Commission, officials from the Electoral Commission, we had the Minister of Finance and his team, plus the National Identification Authority head and other staff of the NIA. They were here yesterday for that committee of the whole meeting, and it did come on, but it had to be postponed because the minority had indicated that the Electoral Commission chairperson, Jane Mensah, was not present at that particular meeting. So the minority opposed that meeting should not come on. And so that meeting has been postponed. But as to the date that it will happen again, it's yet to be communicated to us.
Right, but how intense has the debate been? Because yesterday the indication we got was that you as journalists were walked out of the chamber when this particular CI and the conversation around it was brought up. In terms of the positions, how staunch of a position have each side of the House taken?
Yes, Mawina, during the debate of the constitutional instrument by the Electoral Commission, members of the media were present in the chamber during the debate, but it was after that they needed further clarifications from these three institutions that I mentioned to you earlier. They were supposed to give them further clarification. That was when the media people were asked to leave the chamber for them to do that particular meeting. But you will know that the minority over the years have expressed worry about the fact that they're going to use, the EC is attempting to use the Ghana card as the sole document for registration onto the voters register for the upcoming general elections. And that is what the minority is opposing. And further, Haruna Idrisu also did indicate that for the general public to go to the regional offices to register for the voting process is wrong, and so it should be done at the various polling centers, and that will make it easier for voters to identify where they will vote on voters day, among others.
Right.
And so basically the minority was just saying that the NIA documents and the EC documents do not tally, and so they will not allow such a thing to happen. And that was basically the main reason the minority debated on, and that matter has been left there. So, but yesterday the report of the Statutory Legislation Committee was adopted by the House. You know, they had a pre-briefing of this particular matter, and so that report was put together, and that was what the House debated on yesterday. So that report was adopted yesterday, and so now they have to meet the three institutions again and then finalize everything and then to see whether the CI could be laid in the House or not. You know, the CI is yet to be laid in the House.
Right then. That's my colleague Evelyn Tingma providing details as to what happened yesterday. Thankfully, the Honourable Roxy Nelson Dafiamek, a member of the Legislative Committee of Parliament, has joined us on phone. Many thanks, Honourable. So my colleague Evelyn has really explained to listeners exactly where we are in terms of the lane of the CI. But you're insisting that the Electoral Commission chairperson be the one to make the appearance. The question really is, what difference would it make if the deputy does that on their behalf?
Now, thank you very much. There were some inaccuracies in the report that I just listened to. First of all, the report that was adopted was not from the Statutory Legislative Committee. It was from the Business Committee,
right?
Special Budget Committee. The Special Budget is the committee that exercises oversight in terms of the purse of the Electoral Commission as a constitutional body. So that was the report that was debated and adopted yesterday. Then the Committee of the Whole also had an encounter severally last year with the Master Education. It was a lot of encounter. In December, that was debated and adopted. Now, we sought to interrogate or meet with the NIA as well as the Electoral Commission.
Right.
All right? And we're going to interrogate them on matters of policy. Are the deputies capable of speaking to matters of policy? Is that a suggestion? They have appeared severally before us, minus the commissioner. And when we posed questions of policy, they told the committee to have to defer to the commissioner. So as a house, we wouldn't go through that pain any longer. So if we had policy issues to raise, the person to appear and lead the organization that will answer to policy is the commissioner herself.
That's why the insistence she be present.
Yes. And we were told that she was in Nigeria yesterday. So we said we are a patient vet. Anytime she returns, we will engage.
So there's a wait on her to return from Nigeria. That's in relation to the elections which come off tomorrow. But for you in the minority, the position remains that the Ghana card cannot be the sole identifier for individuals to get onto the electoral roll.
The law in place, the law in force, which empowers the Electoral Commission to conduct their continuous registration, doesn't permit that. It asks for the use of the passport, it asks for the use of Ghana card as well as the guarantor system. So any suggestion to the contrary is unlawful. That's a humble position. For instance, the law, the CIA 91 says that use polling stations as your registration centers. You say you want to use only district offices of the Electoral Commission as your registration centers. Is that what the law requires? So that is a clear breach.
Right. Honorable, I'm sure this is a subject matter that we'll come back to you on in the coming days, but I appreciate that you could speak to us this afternoon.
It's my pleasure.
That's the Honorable Roxy Nelson Dafiamekpo speaking to us and also providing some more understanding as to exactly where the situation is or where the matter is in terms of this constitutional instrument which is yet to be laid before the House. Has to do with whether or not the Ghana card becomes the sole identifier for individuals to get onto the country's electoral. But you're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7. We'll just stay a little while in Parliament this time on the anti-LGBT bill, because there's been some updates on that following the appearance of the Honourable Sam George here on 3FM, where he, amongst other things, raised concerns about a delay by the Attorney General and the report of the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill, referred to as the anti-LGBT bill, is to be laid before Parliament by the end of March. A proponent and one of the sponsors of the bill, Member of Parliament for Pram Sam Nate George, made this known at a media briefing in Parliament yesterday. My colleague Evelyn Tingma has the rest of the story.
The Proper Human Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill has been in the House for more than 2 years.
Within a week, the report of the committee should be ready for the final consideration of the committee, which will happen with the sponsors. And subsequently, we believe that within a 2 weeks period, that report should be ready to be laid on the floor of the House. So I can comfortably say that as sponsors, we have a debt of gratitude to the Parliamentary Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, led by the Honourable Kwame Ayimedu, and the Honourable Bernard Ahiafo, for the yeoman's job they've done. Not that we have a light at the end of the tunnel, we have reached the end of the tunnel. And we'll be bringing that report hopefully before the end of March or before this House rises, and laying it before the House for debates on the floor. And so watch this space. We are in a good place, and we'll be looking forward to you giving us all the support to pass this landmark bill, which will be the first of its kind.
MP for Ningo Pram Sam George says the bill has been well shaped now with less controversies.
So So that's my colleague Evelyn Tingma providing a lot more details on this. I will switch our attentions now, take you up north, because security operatives have picked up 10 persons in a joint operation in connection with the gun violence at Wenchiki in the Chereponi district of the Northeast region. Violence erupted at the place on Thursday after two feuding factions exchanged gunfire over the installation of a sub-chief in the area. Conflicting reports say between 2 and 5 persons, including a 16-year-old girl and a security officer, have died as a result of this. 3 persons who were also hit by bullets and sustained various degrees of injuries are receiving treatment at the Chereponi District Hospital. Reports points to help Nigeria here on your election command center, because over 93 million indigents there are expected to tomorrow between 8:30 and 2 p.m. vote for the next president of the country. It's a landmark elections that many have described that could change the fortunes of the country and seek to put the country on a pedestal headed towards development. And we'll be there pretty shortly, but we're trying to connect with my colleague Christopher.
Currency, and it's almost becoming the 4 arms of government this country.
Right.
And the operation of this chieftaincy institution. A clear example is the Nairi and the Boku incident.
But in terms of solutions, right?
I want to suggest that government must have a paradigm shift. You see, if you go to our policies lately, why are security personnel policing our chiefs? So these chiefs hide under the guise of this protection and try to perpetuate illegalities because they feel they are clouded with that power.
So they should be stripped of the security.
Because the Chereponi chief was to...
The majority chief whip, while reading the business statement, the president was expected in the House, but that will have to be done on the 8th of March, and so most likely next 2 weeks. But let's take you to Nigeria now. But you're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7, and it will be a big day tomorrow as Nigerians go to the polls. But the head of research at the Faculty of Academic Affairs at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, Professor Kwesinin, says the inability of Nigerians to acquire the naira for transactions will affect voter turnout. He believes the situation could pose security crisis for the country. He's been speaking to my colleague Komla Kluche in an exclusive interview where he says the situation must be managed well to avert a major crisis.
So Nigeria goes to the polls tomorrow in less than 14 hours. So, well, one observer group that has made Ghana proud over the years is the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. They've done a lot of observation or election observation, teaching-wise, and also the practical aspect of it. The head of research at the Faculty of Academic Affairs of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, Professor Kwesinin, is leading that team. They are here in Abuja to do their monitoring.
And Nigeria is an important country. It's the absolute hegemon of West Africa and a superpower on this continent. And therefore, it is our responsibility and our duty to use that knowledge that we have in supporting our partners in Nigeria in ensuring that this election is as successful as possible.
One issue that would not go spoken about is the issue of security. We've also had the economic effect where the issue of the naira has come is the major topic in Nigeria today, and many have even said that because of the scarcity of the naira, some people may not be able to go. Voter apathy may set in. For you, what should be the approach?
Almost everything at all can be a security concern, but let me make this very clear. You know, since my arrival more than a week ago, traveling around, watching, observing, talking to people, I have been pretty impressed by the levels of, resilience. I mean, can you imagine how it is like to have a cash economy devoid of cash. You know, so although there have been some sporadic expressions of disaffection, if you take the size of Nigeria, if you take the ability of the state to withdraw cash from the society and the levels of disaffection, then I think one can say it has been a successful operation. And I think there are some lessons that we can all learn from it. Will this affect levels of participation? Most certainly. But I think the information that has gone out has been clear that because tomorrow, the voting day, the 25th itself, that vehicular movement will be limited. That in going around the last week, you've seen shops have closed progressively over time, meaning that people have taken the opportunity also to travel to get home and to get bread. Look, those who are watching us from the outside are desperate that something does not go right, so that the historical perceptions of African elections as necessarily a failure and a prelude to violence will happen. And I'm sending this message clearly. We have matured. We realize that this is the only continent that we have, that there may be difficulties, but we've also learned lessons from the way we were treated by our so-called partners during COVID and during the ongoing Ukraine-Russia war.
That's Professor Kwesi Enin speaking to my colleague Komla Kluche, who's currently in Nigeria, Abuja to be specific, for us, and he's joining us via Zoom here on your Election Command Center. Pick up the mood ahead of the major elections tomorrow. Many thanks, Komla, for joining us this afternoon. So you've been there, I'm sure, almost 12 plus hours. Talk to us about the mood in town with no campaign today and how citizens are preparing for tomorrow.
Well, I mean, it's one that's, if you know the Nigerian terrain quite well, you need to actually be making your way out of town a day before elections. The streets are beginning to get quiet. Many of the people are moving to their various hometowns or stations where they'll be casting their ballot. But I must say that, you know, the issue about the Naira is still of much concern, because some of the people who are ready to travel, they tell you that they've not been able to even have any money at all at the bank. I was speaking a short while ago to somebody who tells me that he went to the bank to withdraw 20,000 Naira. He was giving just 2,000 Naira. What was he really going to be doing with 2,000 Naira? Even 2,000 Naira was not going to take him to where he was going. So it's quite a precarious situation, but a good number of them are also beginning to look beyond it to see, okay, do I still have the interest of taking part in this election? What does it, what benefit does this inure to me? They're weighing all these options and they are deciding whether or not. But it's quite obvious, you know, if you listen to them,